Fruitful Living with Sissel Anderson. Here on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and this morning we're going to be breaking down a recent song. It's called Numb, Little Bug. Like I said, I am so out of touch when it comes to music. When I listen to radio, it's typically Catholic radio, but what are your thoughts on that, Sissel?
Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Oh, beautiful. Fantastic. You know, it's kind of hard to talk about a song when you can't talk, but
just a little.
You answered my question at the beginning, by the way, Keith. My first question was going to be, have you heard of this song? Do you know this song? But I first wanted to talk about maybe why do I occasionally like to break down different media, whether it's movies or TV shows or music. And I think it's because sometimes we can learn a lot from these things, even if they're not like faith-based. We can learn a lot about the current generation or past generations and what the thoughts and feelings are, because that often shows in our art. We can just learn a lot. I think it's really a fun and fascinating thing. And yes, I tend to read way too much into meanings of things, but that's just kind of what I do. So this particular song, it's Emma Byhold, by the way, Numb Little Bug. She is an artist who's current right now. The song came out a couple of years ago, and it kind of went, did the run across Instagram, TikTok, and all of that, got very popular. And the song itself is actually about her own personal struggle with depression that she had, an episode of depression that she had in her life. So specifically when I'm talking about it, I'm not talking about her meaning for her personally, because obviously that's what she wrote it about. Not everyone experiences that. But afterwards, after the song was released, a lot of people in my generation, specifically in Gen Z, looked at this song and they were like, this song just sums up my life. This is our generation. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So a song that a girl wrote about being depressed, basically, or going through a episode of depression. This is what we are saying our generation is. And so I'm going to read mostly just the chorus, because I think that's kind of where the general overview of it comes out. And I want to get your thoughts on it, Keith, and see if you can get the feel of it. By the way, it's a very upbeat song. It's actually a very good song. I do like the song. If you're looking at it from simply a musical standpoint, it's very good. It's very well written. The chorus goes, she has a little bit of a pre-chorus, which goes, and I just want to see if you feel the same as me. Do you ever get a little bit tired of life? Like you're not really happy, but you don't want to die. Like you're hanging by a thread, but you've got to survive, because you got to survive. Like your body's in the room, but you're not really there. Like you have empathy inside, but you don't really care. Like you're fresh out of love, but it's been in the air. Am I past repair? A little bit tired of trying to care when I don't. A little bit tired of quick repairs to cope. A little bit tired of sinking. There's water in my boat. I'm barely breathing, trying to stay afloat. So I gotta get these quick repairs to cope. Guess I'm just broken and broke. And the song kind of has a little bit of tongue in cheek in it. It's an upbeat sounding song, and it's just kind of like, oh, I'm broken, I'm broke, I've got to survive, but it's also very kind of depressing lyrics if you think about it. So it just made me think, gosh, if this is what we're thinking our generation is like, a lot of people related to the song. Like a lot of people relate to the song. And it came up in my feed again recently. That's why I thought about it, is someone just said, oh, remember this song is like, our generation. And so first off, your knee-jerk reaction to some of those lyrics, Keith?
Yeah, I was just kind of reading them as you went along, and it's very interesting to kind of get kind of a perspective of your generation. But interestingly, it's one of the ones you mentioned was like you are not really happy, but you don't want to die. Very interesting, because I feel like a lot of the technology that we utilize today has kind of warped people's minds, and so. I think people are looking to, or at least young people maybe looking to find happiness in all the wrong places. And I mean, I can attest to that too. Like, because of technology, you're always striving to find the next best thing, whether it's trying, technology or not. It's very interesting. tell us more about the song. I'm very, very intrigued.
Yeah, and for everyone's reference, wondering why on earth is it called a numb little bug? It is the last line of the song. She goes, like a numb little bug that's got to survive because it's got to survive. That's why she was just like, oh, I'm feeling like a numb little bug when I was writing this. So again, it's kind of a very cutesy name for kind of a bigger, maybe a bigger topic at hand. But that is where that comes in. But it made me think about, I think it was around this time last year, January of last year, the Pew, what is that company called? Pew Research Center came out with a study, and they was saying that most of the generation counts to be nuns, or the people who don't have any religious affiliation, about a year ago. And I was just thinking, like, you have a song like this, and that's kind of sums up what a lot of people would say sums up their generation. And then we have this research come out saying that a huge percentage of people don't believe in anything anymore. And I can't help but see a little bit of a correlation in that a lot of us are just, a lot of people in this generation are just kind of in this survival mode on a life. They are not, because they don't have anything that they are working towards, because this end goal of heaven is not there. They're not trying to live their life in this particular way. And so it's kind of like they can't, the life loses a lot of its meaning. And so of course you're going to feel like a numb little bug, like you don't have anything to be holding on to. You're just kind of like, I got to survive because I've just got to survive because that's how life goes. But there's lacking in the joy. It's lacking in, sitting with the Lord in the sorrow. It's a sad life and a sad way of looking at life. But I'd argue that's what a lot of people do today.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because life today, it's pretty easy. I mean, shouldn't be generally, society shouldn't feel this way, but because I think, like you said, we don't think about heaven. Generally those people that you mentioned, the nuns, aren't thinking about death. They're not thinking about the four last things. I mean, there's just so many things that this society in general, like you said, isn't thinking about. And so, yeah, you're going to be unhappy if you're not thinking.
Yeah, and I think sometimes as well that Christians have, not always, because we're Christians but we're also full of sin, and we don't always portray the Christian life well. And maybe that some of the nuns probably have seen these some Christians living life and pretending like everything's always fine. And, the current generation's very big about being honest and upfront and don't pretend, like don't hide feelings on things. So I think we need to make sure that it's sold that the faith life is not quote unquote easier, but it is actually, it's more fruitful. It is more fulfilling. And obviously, because we're living with the intention of living how God asks us to live, and we're living with this end goal. But it doesn't mean it's easy. There's a lot of hard times, but you have the comfort and the relationship with our Lord to get you through those times. I believe there's a quote by St. Padre Pio that said, it would be easier for the world to survive without the sun than it would without the Holy Mass. And I was like, well, that's pretty poignant. He's saying that it would be a lot easier for us to live without the warmth of the sun than it would be without the Eucharist, basically, without being able to celebrate with the Eucharist, which I think is really telling. And I think that speaks to kind of the problem of being numb in this current generation.
Yeah, and even there's a lyric here where there's water in my boat, I'm barely breathing, trying to stay afloat. I mean, there's an answer here to this whole thing. Yeah,
no, I just want to go to like everyone who's listening to the song. Again, a girl who wrote this was going through some mental health struggles, and so she needed extra help. Of course, God will also be helpful in this journey, as well. But the fact is that so many people heard this song and said, yes, this song relates to me. I feel the same way. And I'm like, that's a little bit concerning. And the thing is like, I can't even sit here and say that I've never felt like that either. In times of my life when my spiritual life wasn't what it should have been. There's definitely times where I kind of just felt like I was going through the motions. I felt very numb and kind of just, reevaluating and figuring out life. So not to say that you can never feel like this, but it's kind of like we have to always kind of get back on the right path say what is going to get me out of this. It's not me, it's God.
Huh. Yeah, I think knowing this could help kind of bridge the gap between the generations, because I think anyone can relate to some of these lyrics at one point in time in their life. And I think like knowing that a lot of young people like Generation Z and maybe, I don't know, Gen Alpha is at that point yet. But knowing this, I think could help us, the older people, understand young people just a little bit more. Maybe not fully, but
yeah, there'll always be some miscommunications on that. But you're right. Like, I think everyone in past generations probably has had a period like this. I think that maybe Generation Z might be the one that's just talking about it, and the ones that are kind of like putting it out in the open. Because again, we tend to be very like, let's talk about all the things, let's pull everything out into the open. Not always with the right direction, not always with the right guiding force of God, but that's why I like to analyze songs like these.
Well, really appreciate you doing that, shedding some light onto the younger generation there. But thank you so much, Sissel. She's also the producer for Back to the Father. That's Friday afternoons, 1 p.m. on GRN Online YouTube. So make sure to put that on your calendar for this Friday. And that is the end of the first hour of Morning Joy, where truth matters. If you aren't able to stay for the remainder of Morning Joy, it's okay. We've got you covered. Just search Morning Joy Radio or GRN Online, as that's who produces this wonderful production every single weekday morning just for you, helping us on that highway towards heaven. If you aren't able to hang tight after this break, God bless. Make it a joyful day. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Eastern. Otherwise, we'll be right back on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.